When a woman walks into a room before she ever speaks a word, people feel her energy. It's not about looks, fashion, or even the smile she gives. It's about the way she carries herself, the way she occupies space, the quiet confidence in her posture, the calm in her presence, the way she doesn't scan the room looking for approval. That's what captivates. That's what makes people turn and pay attention. It's a rare kind of energy, and it comes from one very powerful place, being full from the inside out. When a woman's happiness, self-worth, and sense of identity are not dependent on external validation, she instantly becomes magnetic. Most people live in a state of emotional hunger. They don't realize it, but they're always looking for something to fill them up. They walk into social spaces, hoping to be chosen, liked, admired, or at least acknowledged. And the problem with that is it gives away all the power. When your self-worth hinges on someone else's reaction, you're not free, you're performing. And men sense that. They may not be able to articulate it, but they feel the difference between a woman who's radiating from a place of fullness and one who's subtly trying to extract something from them. That's why the woman who makes men chase isn't necessarily the most beautiful or the most outgoing. She's the one who feels the most complete. She's not searching for someone to rescue her from her boredom, loneliness, or lack of direction. Her life is already alive. She wakes up with things that excite her. She's moving forward with goals, friendships, routines, passions. She's curious about life, curious about herself, and because of that, others become curious about her. There's something undeniably attractive about someone who's already moving, like a train that's already in motion. People want to jump on board. They want to know where you're going, what you're about, what drives you. That's what energy does. It draws people in, not by force, but by flow. You become someone they want to orbit, because being around you feels like an upgrade. Think about the woman who shows up to a date and doesn't feel the need to overshare, overcompensate, or overimpress. She's engaged, she's warm, she's listening, but she's not performing. She's not anxiously checking whether he's laughing at her jokes or finding her interesting. She's genuinely enjoying the moment because she's not using the interaction to get something. She's simply sharing her vibe. That relaxed, grounded state is rare, and it's what makes her stand out without trying to stand out. The truth is, a lot of women are so used to chasing validation on apps, on dates, even in their own minds, that they don't even realize how much it leaks into their behavior. They mirror too quickly, they laugh too loudly, they agree too easily, all because on some level, they're afraid of rejection. But a woman who's already full doesn't fear rejection. She might feel it, sure, she's human, but it doesn't break her, it doesn't shake her identity. She knows she's not for everyone, and that's exactly what makes her irresistible. Because when a man meets a woman like that, he feels something he rarely feels, a challenge that's not aggressive, but deeply internal. She doesn't need him, but she's open. She's not cold, but she's discerning. She's kind, but she's not eager. That combination makes a man ask himself, who do I have to become to be part of her world? That's when the chase begins. Not because she played a game, but because her energy whispered, I'm already good. Are you bringing value, or are you just passing time? This isn't about pretending to be something you're not. It's not about acting like you don't care or suppressing your desire for love and connection. It's about cultivating a life where love becomes the bonus, not the lifeline. When your life is rich with meaning, joy, and movement, you stop putting romantic attention on a pedestal, and that immediately makes you more desirable, not less, because nothing is more attractive than someone who knows how to be happy on their own. You stop waiting for texts, because you're too busy living. You stop obsessing over mixed signals because you don't have time for confusion. You stop settling for crumbs of attention because you're dining at a full table already. This shift in mindset changes everything. Not just in how men respond to you, but in how you see yourself. You become less reactive, more intentional, less attached to outcomes, more rooted in your own values. And as a result, your presence becomes a privilege, not something you have to convince someone to appreciate, but something they naturally value. When you're full, you stop trying to get love and start giving from overflow. Your conversations become more interesting, because you actually have something to say. Your standards become higher not because you're picky, but because you're protective of your peace. You stop playing roles and start showing up as the most real, alive version of yourself. And men can feel that. They might not always understand it, but they're drawn to it. That's why this kind of energy isn't something you fake. It's something you build. It's the result of daily choices. Doing things that light you up, spending time with people who make you feel alive, saying no to things that drain you, pushing yourself to grow, even when it's uncomfortable. Every time you choose yourself, every time you prioritize what feeds your soul, you're creating the kind of energy that makes people want to get closer, to stay longer, to show up better. Men don't chase certainty. They chase potential, specifically the potential of something meaningful that they might lose if they don't step up. That's the hidden mechanism underneath true desire. When a man feels like he already has you, or worse, that you're going to be there no matter how he behaves, his motivation drops. Not because he's evil or careless, but because the human brain doesn't value what it doesn't feel the need to earn. This is hard to accept for people who equate love with constantly giving, pleasing and showing up no matter what. But the reality is that too much availability can backfire. When you're always there, when you never pull back, when you allow inconsistency to go unchecked, you're sending a message that you're easy to keep around, and that message is where attraction starts to die. People confuse unconditional love with unconditional tolerance. They believe that the way to someone's heart is through endless forgiveness, flexibility and patience. And while compassion is beautiful, it should never be mistaken for being passive. When you allow someone to be inconsistent, non-committal or disrespectful and you stay anyway, you're teaching them how little they need to do to keep you. That doesn't inspire effort. That doesn't awaken desire. That breeds complacent. Desire isn't created in comfort zones. It's sparked in moments of uncertainty, of tension, of the possibility that something precious could slip away. Think about the early days of any relationship where attraction was at its peak. What made it exciting? It wasn't just chemistry. It was that dance of, will this go somewhere? Do they like me as much as I like them? What's next? That tension is not something to avoid. It's part of what makes the experience of falling for someone thrilling. But here's where most people mess it up. They either give too much too fast, eliminating the tension entirely, or they withhold to manipulate, which isn't sustainable. The real power lies in organic boundaries, where your standards naturally create the space for a man to wonder, to question, to miss you. When you are always the one initiating texts, suggesting plans, following up, and making the emotional effort, you leave no room for someone else to step up. And when people don't have to step up, they don't invest. It's basic psychology. We value what we put energy into. We value what we work for. So when a man feels the natural consequence of his inaction, that he starts to lose access to your time, attention, or presence, he wakes up, he starts paying attention, he starts chasing, not because he's been manipulated, but because the dynamic shifted. You stopped carrying both sides of the connection. Now the key is subtlety. This isn't about slamming doors, sending long texts, or blocking him the moment he takes a day to reply. It's about responding, not reacting. If he doesn't follow through, you simply don't chase him down. If he stops initiating, you stop engaging. If he pulls away, you create space, not to punish, but to protect your energy. And in doing that, you allow him to feel the weight of his action. You give him the opportunity to choose you again, or not. Either way, you win. Because your goal isn't to manipulate the outcome. Your goal is to honor your value. What most people get wrong is thinking that chasing someone means you care, that if you let go, you're giving up. But the truth is, holding on too tightly often pushes people away. The more you try to force connection, the more resistance you create. The more you try to make someone see your worth, the more you end up diminishing it. Because no one is going to value you more than you value yourself. And if you're tolerating breadcrumbs, chasing validation or proving your worth, you're operating from lack, not love. A man begins to chase when he feels he could lose access to a woman who is valuable, rare and self-sufficient. A woman who brings peace, joy, connection, but who also has the strength to walk away when her needs are not being met. That moment of separation is powerful. That silence after inconsistency speaks louder than any words. It tells him, I don't need to explain what you already know. It makes him reflect. It creates that internal dialogue. Did I mess this up? Is she slipping away? Was she the one? And that's what re-engages a man on an emotional level. Not your words, not your effort, not your tears, but the void your absence creates. The woman who understands this doesn't panic when things shift. She doesn't beg for clarity. She doesn't try to re-explain her value. She simply steps back, knowing that if he sees her worth, he'll move toward her. And if he doesn't, she's not losing anything. She's just making space for someone who will. This calm detachment is what makes her irresistible. Because she's not hooked by outcomes, she's grounded in her standards. And that makes her rare. Men don't chase chaos. They chase certainty in a woman who won't settle. They chase what they can't easily grasp. Not because it's playing games, but because that dynamic pushes them to rise, to show up, to clarify. A man only becomes clear when he realizes a woman won't wait forever, that she has options, that she has a life, that she has self-respect, and she's not afraid to be alone if it means protecting her peace. So when you stop over-giving, over-analyzing, and over-performing, and instead start simply living with aligned energy, something magical happens. He starts feeling the shift. He notices your absence. He compares you to every other woman he's met, and he realizes none of them made him feel the way you did. But this time, the difference is, he has to do something about it. He has to pursue. He has to initiate. He has to because if he doesn't, he knows, he'll lose the kind of woman who doesn't come around twice. Words are easy. Anyone can say, I want something serious, or I value consistency, but it's not what you say. It's what you allow that truly defines your standard. Most people believe they're setting strong boundaries just because they voice what they want. But here's the truth. Men don't learn from your words. They learn from your behavior. Every time you respond to a late text, every time you accept a last-minute plan, every time you forgive the same lazy effort without any shift, you're silently telling him, this is all I need to stay. And that's where attraction slowly fades. Not because you're not good enough, but because your standards don't hold firm. The moment you tolerate inconsistency, you teach him it's acceptable. The moment you excuse confusion, you show him clarity is optional. It's not about being cruel or demanding. It's about being clear. Clarity is kindness, and standards aren't about ultimatums or threats. They're about choosing how you move. You don't demand better treatment. You simply stop responding to poor behavior. You don't argue for attention. You disappear from dynamics that make you question your worth. That shift is quiet but powerful. It doesn't scream. It just walks. A man won't chase someone who always meets him where he is, especially when where he is doesn't require growth. That doesn't mean you play hard to get. That means you actually are hard to get. Not because you're playing a game, but because you've raised the price of admission. You know what peace costs. You know how much emotional labor you've invested in the past. And now you're not available for anyone who doesn't meet you at the level of your effort. That's not high maintenance. That's high awareness. The reason so many women feel exhausted in relationships is because they're carrying the entire connection on their back. They're initiating conversations, managing the emotional temperature, fixing problems before they escalate, always trying to create harmony. Meanwhile, the man is often just enjoying the ride. And why wouldn't he? He doesn't have to do anything differently. He's being chosen no matter what. But when a woman starts living her standards instead of just talking about them, everything changes. Suddenly his comfort is disrupted. He has to think. He has to act. He has to step up or step out. Now here's the hard part. This doesn't work unless you truly believe in your own value. Because the moment you enforce a standard, you will lose people. That's not a flaw in the process. It's part of it. Setting standards is like a filter. The wrong people will exit. The right ones will rise. But if your self-worth is shaky, you'll interpret people leaving as a sign that you asked for too much. And then you'll lower your standards, thinking it'll bring love faster. It won't. It just delays the right person even more. Men are drawn to women who create emotional gravity, and that gravity comes from how you respond to misalignment. Do you explain your worth repeatedly, hoping he finally sees it? Or do you choose to step away, knowing the right man won't need convincing? Do you stick around for potential, or do you hold out for action? Men don't chase women who tell them how they want to be treated. They chase women who show them, consistently, that they won't stay for anything less. Your standards aren't there to test him, they're there to protect you. They're not weapons, they're filters. They keep your heart from being invested in places that can't hold it. And the woman who honors those standards is always ahead, even if she feels alone in the moment. Because she's not collecting short-term attention, she's attracting long-term alignment. That's a different level of maturity. That's dating with your future self in mind. And let's be honest, men notice everything. Even when they pretend not to. When you don't reply to that late-night text because it shows no effort, he notices. When you politely decline vague last-minute plans, he feels the shift. When you stop entertaining inconsistent energy, he knows the access he once had is slipping. And if he wants it back, he'll have to earn it. Not with words, but with behavior that matches yours. If he doesn't, then the disconnection was a blessing in disguise. This is not about withholding love, it's about giving love where it's reciprocated. And the fastest way to see who's serious is to stop leading the connection. When you step back, you make space for a man to step up. And if he doesn't, there's your answer. Not every man is meant to chase you. Some are just meant to show you how low you used to set the bar. And that's okay. Every misalignment is information. It's not rejection, it's redirection. Living your standards is a daily decision. It's not a one-time declaration. It's in the little things, the unanswered call when he disappeared for days, the decline of the offer that doesn't meet your time or effort, the silence you maintain instead of chasing closure. It's choosing not to over-explain, not to overextend, and not to settle just because you're tired of being single. That's the woman who creates a presence so strong that men remember her long after she's gone. Not because she did anything dramatic, but because she didn't compromise. In a world where so many people are bending, folding, and reshaping themselves to be liked, the woman who stands tall in her values becomes unforgettable. She's not rigid, she's rooted. She's not cold, she's clear. And that kind of clarity, that's what makes a man sit up, take notice, and realize he's dealing with someone different, someone rare, someone who doesn't just say she deserves more, she shows it with every decision she makes. And that silent strength speaks louder than any words ever could. There's this myth floating around that the only way to be powerful is to be guarded, emotionally distant, or always in control. But the truth is, the most powerful women aren't the ones who build walls. They're the ones who know how to open up without losing themselves. Vulnerability, when expressed with self-respect, is magnetic. It shows depth, courage, and maturity. It says, I'm not afraid of being seen. And that's what captivates people far more than perfection ever could. The woman who can say, this is who I am and I'm okay with it, is the woman men remember not because she was flawless, but because she was real. But vulnerability without boundaries becomes neediness. And that's where a lot of people confuse the two. Being emotionally available doesn't mean pouring your heart out to someone who hasn't earned it. It doesn't mean oversharing on the first date, or constantly expressing your feelings in hopes of getting a reaction. That's not connection. That's seeking reassurance. The difference is intention. Vulnerability done right comes from fullness, not emptiness. It's not about saying, please like me. It's about saying, here's something real about me, and you can take it or leave it. The woman who owns her vulnerability with grace isn't looking for validation. She's simply being honest. She's not ashamed of her past, her lessons, or her desires. She's not hiding the fact that she wants love, that she's been through pain, that she's learned to set higher standards. And she's not afraid to let someone see her softness, because her softness doesn't make her weak. It makes her human. And what makes her even more powerful is that she chooses who gets access to that part of her. It's not for everyone. It's not a performance. It's selective, intentional, and earned. This kind of woman creates an emotional experience that lingers because she doesn't try to impress. She connects. She doesn't dominate the conversation. She listens and engages with presence. She's not interested in winning someone over she's interested in being known. And when a man senses that she's not trying to sell herself, not trying to be liked, but simply showing up as she is, it changes everything. It creates space for authenticity. It encourages him to drop his own wall. That's when emotional intimacy begins. Not when someone gives you their resume, but when they give you a glimpse into their world. But again, this level of openness only works when it's balanced with discernment, when you can show your heart and protect your peace, when you can say, yes, I'm open, but I'm not available for confusion or games. That clarity is attractive because it shows emotional intelligence. It shows that you're not here to convince someone to choose you. You're here to build something with someone who already sees your value. You're not proving anything. You're inviting someone to step into something real. Men aren't drawn to women who never show emotion. They're drawn to women who can express emotion without losing themselves in it. That's the difference between emotional chaos and emotional depth. Chaos says, I'm overwhelmed, and I need you to fix this. Depth says, here's what I feel, and I'm okay whether you stay or not. That's the kind of emotional maturity that separates a woman from the rest. Because she's not ruled by her feelings, she honors them without letting them run the show. Imagine you're on a date, and instead of giving textbook answers, you talk about something that actually means something to you. Maybe it's a passion, a recent lesson, a childhood story, something small but honest. That moment of realness creates more connection than hours of surface-level banter. Why? Because people are tired of pretending, tired of games, tired of curated versions of each other. The moment you drop the mask, the other person feels permission to do the same. That's how trust starts, not with perfection, but with presence. But here's the catch. This only works when you're grounded in who you are. If you share vulnerably and the other person pulls away, and you spiral into overthinking or insecurity, that wasn't vulnerability, that was attachment. True vulnerability says, I can open up and still stand tall if you don't choose me. It's being able to share something meaningful and not base your self-worth on how it's received. That takes emotional strength. And that kind of strength makes a man sit up and take notice, because now you're not just someone he's attracted to, you're someone he respects. Someone who brings both warmth and wisdom to the table. Someone who knows when to lean in and when to let go. Someone who can love deeply without losing her balance. That's the kind of woman who makes a man feel inspired to rise to her level. Not because she demands it, but because being around her feels better than being anywhere else. She becomes the exception to everything he thought he wanted, because she offers something rare, emotional safety without emotional dependency. And that's the real secret. When you can show someone your heart and still keep your standards intact, you become unforgettable. When you can cry without shame, hope without fear, and love without chasing, you show a level of grace most people don't know how to hold. That's what makes people remember you. Not just how you looked or what you said, but how you made them feel. Not pressured, not confused, but seen, safe, and inspired to be better. That's the mark of a woman who knows herself. And in a world full of noise, that kind of clarity is rare. That kind of presence is everything. There's a principle that never fails in human psychology. People value what they invest in. The more energy, time, thought, and emotion someone puts into something, the more attached they become to it. It's not about manipulation. It's about basic human nature. We protect what we work for. We cherish what we strive for. That's why the woman who knows her worth doesn't overextend to prove herself. She doesn't jump through hoops to impress. She understands that love isn't about convincing someone to want her. It's about allowing space for someone to choose her and put in the effort required to earn a place in her life. The problem is, most people reverse the dynamic. They try to earn love by giving too much too fast, hoping it will inspire the other person to match their energy. But what ends up happening is the opposite. When you give everything up front, you remove the need for someone to try. You eliminate the investment. And without investment, there's no value. He may enjoy your time, appreciate your kindness, and even like your company, but he won't feel that urge to keep you because he didn't have to do anything to get you. That's why real connection is built in the space between giving and receiving. When a man takes the lead, makes plans, initiates contact and follows through, he's investing. And when you respond with warmth, kindness and openness, without overcompensating, you're creating balance. You're saying, I see your effort and I'm here for it, without saying I'll carry the weight of this connection for both of us. That's when the dynamic becomes magnetic, because you're not overgiving, and he's not being spoon-fed your energy. He's stepping into his role naturally. Men don't fall in love with women who are easy to access. They fall in love with women who create emotional value. That doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection. It means showing up with self-respect. It means having a full life, healthy boundaries, and the courage to walk away when someone's not showing up. When you live like that, any attention you give becomes meaningful, because it's clear you don't give it to just anyone. You're not desperate for connection, you're selective. And that makes every interaction with you feel like a privilege, not a guarantee. Think of it this way. When a man knows that being with you requires intentionality, clarity and consistency, he treats the relationship differently. He knows he has to bring something real to the table. His integrity, his follow-through, his effort, and in doing that he becomes more invested. Because now it's not just about how you make him feel, it's about how he sees himself when he's with you. A man will chase a woman who makes him feel like a better man, not because she tries to fix him, but because she holds a mirror up to his potential by refusing to settle for anything less. This is also why the woman who doesn't rush creates so much more impact. She allows the relationship to unfold. She doesn't try to control the narrative. She allows herself to receive instead of always trying to manage. And in doing so, she gives the man space to rise. If he doesn't, that's all the clarity she needs. She doesn't hold grudges. She doesn't linger in limbo. She gracefully moves on, knowing that love should feel like alignment, not convincing. There's a quiet power in not chasing. Not because you don't care, but because you care deeply about your peace, your time and your energy. You understand that if a man isn't willing to invest, it has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with his readiness. That self-awareness keeps you from chasing potential and keeps you grounded in reality, and that groundedness is incredibly attractive. Men sense when a woman knows what she brings to the table. She doesn't have to say it, she lives it. She's not afraid of being single, because she knows that being alone and at peace is better than being in a relationship where she's constantly questioning her value. That confidence, that quiet certainty, is the difference between a woman who hopes to be chosen and one who chooses herself first. And the moment she does that, everything changes. The way she speaks, the way she moves, the way she navigates dating, it all shifts. Because now she's not seeking validation, she's scanning for alignment. And when a man shows up with the right energy, when he invests emotionally, mentally and practically, she meets him there. She doesn't withhold affection. She doesn't play it cool just to keep the upper hand. She allows herself to be soft, open and engaged, but only in response to consistent effort, because she understands that vulnerability without reciprocity is self-abandonment, and that's a line she refuses to cross anymore. That's how men fall, truly fall for a woman, not through what she gives, but through what she requires them to give in order to be close to her, not through how much she chases, but how much she inspires effort, by the standards she lives every single day. The truth is, the woman who makes 97% of men chase her, isn't chasing anyone. She's not performing, persuading or trying to prove her worth. She's rooted in it. Her energy speaks before she does. Her standards are clear without needing explanation. Her vulnerability is powerful, not needy. And she doesn't just say she deserves more, she lives like it. She shows up full, not empty. She gives with intention, not desperation. And she moves with grace, not gain. In a world where most people are starving for attention, she becomes unforgettable by being the rare one who doesn't need it to shine. She's not chasing love. She's attracting it, by being the woman who doesn't just hope to be chosen, but who chooses herself every time. And that choice is what makes everyone else want to choose her too.